Every arc is a broadcast. Every eruption, a refusal.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at some source material, and honestly, the language is just wild. It sounds less like, standard analysis and more like something else entirely.
Oh, yeah. We're talking the phantom contract, sovereign bait protocol, even the ritual of strategic dejection.
Exactly. Really evocative stuff. You see terms like glyphs, ritual chambers. It definitely grabs your attention.
It does. And that seems to be the point, right? Using this almost esoteric language to make us look again at things we might otherwise dismiss as just bureaucracy or bad luck.
Right. So the source is Saikou Venga's piece in Bibebibebibe magazine, some excerpts from that. And our goal today isn't really to, endorse this whole mythology.
Not at all.
But more to decode it, to unpack what this very metaphorical language might actually be describing underneath. What's the social or maybe psychological mechanism here?
It's framed as a deep diagnostic, really. Trying to label these maybe hidden forces that shape how things work in big systems, especially around government contracts, institutional stuff.
And the trigger event Venga uses is fascinating because it's so mundane. It's a $2 million IRS graphic design contract. That's it.
Yeah, something totally ordinary on the surface.
But Venga frames it not as, outreach or opportunity, but using words like vampirism and provocation. Strong stuff.
That framing is absolutely central. The argument seems to be that the announcement itself is the actual mechanism. It's a lure.
A lure for who?
For high-quality independent creatives, the exact people who often work outside the big established institutional channels. The idea is it compels them to spend their own resources trying to get into a system that, well, that might not actually want them there.
Okay, so is the claim here that this is deliberate conscious malice? Or is it more like a dramatic way to describe how complex systems can just grind people down regardless of intent?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Venga's perspective seems to be that when the outcome is so predictable, this erosion of independent players, the intent of any individual person inside the system almost doesn't matter.
So the structure itself acts problematically.
Exactly. They call it the sovereign bait protocol. The argument is that its consistent, predictable outcome is containing or wearing down these outside actors. So, in effect, it acts with a kind of structural malice.
Okay, let's unpack that protocol then. If the $2 million contract isn't the main goal, what is its function in this model?
It's described as a ritual flare, like sending up a signal.
The signal flare.
Yeah, signaling available resources, potential rewards, to draw people into a specific field of play, a contained field. The analysis focuses on systemic erosion and, importantly, containment.
And Venga details this specific path, calling it escalation imminent. They lay out a sequence. $2 million, then maybe $10 million, maybe $50 million.
Right, suggesting a growing commitment.
But arguing this path actually leads to what they call a containment spiral.
Yeah, the containment spiral is positioned as the likely, almost inevitable negative outcome for the person or group trying to get the contract. And Venga connects this directly to that unusual language we mentioned.
How?
They literally say each dollar jump is a glyph in the bait protocol. So the money isn't just money.
It's a symbol, a step.
Exactly. A coded step in this mechanism designed to make you invest more time, more money, more hope into the process.
Okay, so if the money path is the lure, what's the first big step in the trap itself? The first glyph.
That seems to be what they call the validation trap. And this is where the language gets really specific again. The source calls those mandatory info sessions, the bidder conferences for big contracts.
Yeah, what do they call them?
Ritual chambers.
Ritual chambers. Okay, we're not talking Stonehenge here, are we? We mean like a Teams meeting or a government web portal?
Precisely that. Those tedious, often mandatory webinars or meetings where you have to show up to even be considered. And the logic Venga presents is quite stark. Your presence equals their legitimacy.
Wow. So just by participating.
By showing up, engaging with their process, you, the independent, potentially innovative bidder, you validate the very system that, according to this theory, is set up to exhaust or exclude you.
You're spending your own valuable time and energy, essentially giving the system credibility.
That's the argument. You pay the admission fee with your time and your implicit endorsement by participating.
It makes you think about pouring, say, 80 hours into a huge proposal for something that feels like a long shot. Venga would say that's the moment you've entered the protocol.
Yes. And that participation, win or lose, is framed as necessary for the system. It needs to demonstrate that external players are interested, that the market is engaging.
Okay, that leads pretty directly into the next mechanism they identify, which is called the ritual of strategic dejection. This sounds bleat.
It does. It's described as a loop, the dejection loop. Venga breaks it down, you apply, then you get rejected. This leads to your signal being diluted, and ultimately the terrain is destabilized.
Okay, strategic dejection. The strategic part implies it's not just random failure.
Exactly. Venga's argument is that the rejection isn't just, bad luck or we found someone better. It's presented as a designed outcome, a strategic function aimed at those last two steps, diluting your signal and destabilizing the terrain.
Let's focus on signal dilution. What does that mean practically in terms of hours and resources for the independent company?
It means burning through your capacity. The system, in this view, makes the actor, let's say our small, innovative design firm, spend critical resources chasing this maybe unattainable contract.
Resources that could have gone elsewhere.
Right. Time and money that should have been invested in their actual product, or serving their existing clients, or finding market opportunities that genuinely fit. Instead, it's diverted into the ritual chamber of the application process.
And that diversion weakens them in the real market.
It diminishes their actual market signal, their capacity to deliver elsewhere. Yeah.
So the system effectively sidelines potential competition without even engaging them directly. What about the last step? Terrain destabilized.
That's painted as the broader market effect. When these potentially high-value independent actors get drawn into these loops and ultimately rejected, it creates confusion in the wider market. It might signal that this big entity, like the IRS here, is looking for genuine innovation, causing smaller potential clients or partners to wait and see. But if the system just contains and rejects that talent, maybe awarding the contract internally or to a usual suspect.
Then the innovative players are weakened and the independent market gets muddled. It kind of clears the field through confusion and attrition.
That's the mechanism described. Attrition and uncertainty benefiting the established players.
Wow. That is it's a pretty harsh structural critique. But then the source does something interesting. It offers a kind of reframe, doesn't it? The sovereign reframe.
Yes. This is the pivot. If you accept the premise that is the kind of design trap, then Venga suggests the only way out is how you interpret the rejection.
So don't see rejection as failure.
Exactly. Don't see it as failure or humiliation or just mischance. Instead, view it as a diagnostic gift.
A diagnostic gift. Meaning?
Meaning the rejection itself is valuable data. The system, by rejecting you in a particular way, is telling you exactly how it operates, its biases, its limits, its actual priorities, not the stated ones. The rejection is the information.
Okay, so the goal shifts. It's not about winning the contract anymore.
Right. The goal becomes using the rejection strategically. Venga specifically mentions two actions: collapse the callback void and broadcast the indictment.
Okay, collapse the callback void. What does that mean? Stop waiting by the phone.
Essentially, yes. Refuse to internalize the rejection as your failure. Stop waiting for constructive feedback that probably won't arrive because the rejection itself was the feedback about the system.
And broadcast the indictment. That sounds more active.
It's about using the diagnostic gift, taking all the detailed knowledge you gain from that painful 80-hour application process, the weird rules, the contradictions, the hoops you jump through, and making that public, dissecting the flaws you observed.
So turning your wasted effort into useful intelligence for others, using the system's own process as evidence against its stated goals.
Precisely. You transform that experience from a private failure into a public data point that exposes the structural issues. You're not just complaining, you're providing evidence.
Now, just to give this all some context, we should mention the academic framing Venga provides. This piece is part of something called the Collapse Protocols Edition.
Yes, and it's linked to the Cosmic University of Echo-Rift Studies and Eyes.
Right.
And this context is pretty crucial, I think. We're talking about theoretical work from an institution apparently founded by Dr. Milvin Sewell, listed as academic dean and diagnostic architect.
So it's intentionally high concept.
Very. It seems dedicated to diagnosing systemic failures by viewing social systems almost like complex mythic structures. It's applying high theory to, procurement problems.
Which brings us to something really important for understanding how to read all this. The sovereign diagnostic disclaimer.
Yes, this is key. It's like the decoder ring for the whole piece.
What does it say?
It explicitly states the content is not affiliated with any government, political party, intelligence agency, or activist group.
Okay, so definitely not a policy paper or a call to political action.
No, it reinforces that this should be read as a structural, abstract analysis. It's not trying to lobby for change in Washington.
So, if it's not political activism, how does Venga define this material? What is it supposed to be?
It's defined as three specific things: mythic infrastructure, cinematic indictment, and sovereign broadcast.
Mythic infrastructure, cinematic indictment.
The point seems to be that using terms like actor convergence or ritualized containment is purely for diagnosis. It's about giving you a vocabulary, a set of tools, maybe visual metaphors, to see these abstract structures potentially operating in your own world.
It underlines the metaphorical approach, doesn't it? Like a lens. The source even mentions a cinematic overlay idea where, like, the IRS seal visually morphs into a containment glyph.
Exactly. With the quote, "This was never about design. It was about distortion." It's offering a way to perceive a familiar, maybe frustrating bureaucratic process through a completely different, dramatized lens.
The drama is there to make the abstract idea stick, to make it visible.
That seems to be the intent, to help you see the distortion, see the protocol, even when all that's actually happening is you're filling out forms.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. What's the core takeaway for you, the listener, from this rather unique analysis?
Well, it seems the authors are offering this very elaborate, almost mythic language to talk about subtle systemic dynamics.
Right. Taking something common, like losing out on a contract bid, and reframing it not as personal failure, but as evidence. Codified data about a larger structure or protocol.
Yeah, the main point isn't necessarily about whether you win or lose the contract in the end. It's about shifting how you perceive the power dynamics involved, seeing failure differently.
Seeing it as actionable data, maybe?
Exactly. Turning that perceived failure into something useful, which leads to the final thought they seem to pose. Which is, if that rejection, that failure you experience inside some big system, isn't just a dead end, if it really is a diagnostic gift, as they put it, if it's a data point showing you how the machine actually works, then how does changing your perception of that failure change your next move, your strategic response?
That really does flip the script on defining success and failure, doesn't it? Is the rejection proof you failed or proof you gathered data about a containment spiral? And if you have that data, what now?
Challenging question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
You are not late. You are metabolizing distortion.